Hey, it's King McKay. Now we're back for the episode 14 review of Vikings. Now this episode, as I expected, really changed up the pace a lot and gave us a really awesome array of cool things that happen throughout the episode, storylines moving forward, the next stage of the entire season getting put into gear and ready for some awesome shit to happen next episode going forward. So as per usual, we're going to go through each storyline that was covered in this episode, and this episode only really had two storylines. The stuff happening in Wessex, England with Ragnar and Ivar, and the Kattegat storyline. We didn't get any view on anything else this episode. So to begin, we'll go through the Kattegat stuff from Asla's death all the way to the son's reactions and the barrage of mistakes that Lagertha made in this entire episode. Okay, so we begin the episode off with Lagertha coming into this huge crowd of warriors and people that she really had support from, and they're cheering for their victory. Then Asla comes forward, surrenders over Kattegat to her like she should, and asks for some simple things, along with this really awesome discussion with Lagertha that was very tense and clearly in the favor of Asla most of the way, even though she'd lost the battle. Now in Viking culture, it's very important to do things legally through the law and through justice with a group, because it makes things clean, dealt with, and they get put into the past. Where if you just do things like taking over a city, kill some people through blood and power and victory, you have a series of revenge killings and family feuds that go against each other for so long, and they destroy their own culture and leads to so much infighting that they can't expand and raid properly. So the kind of request we saw from Asla for letting her leave was very sensible to be made by anyone in this situation. Sometimes you want to kill off your enemy opponents so they can't really do things, but you do it legally in front of a group. And when she kind of agreed to let Asla leave, and she didn't show a legal way to that group that she could kill Asla and get it done clean and proper, it meant that there was so much opening for the sons to be angry, get the revenge killings, and so much worse. Now I admit, it was pretty cool seeing an arrow drop and hit in the back and she died, but Asla smiled because she knew by her doing that, she'd screwed herself over and her sons would come for revenge, as we saw with Uber's outrage as he tried to kill and attack Lagertha. Okay, I had to talk about the conversation between Asla and Lagertha before Asla surrendered. So straight away, Lagertha doesn't even really try to win any kind of conversation or legal bounds to kick her out. She's like, I want my hearth and home. I'm the victim here, not you. Get out of my way. I'm taking this victory. Where Asla knows that she's from behind, that she's in a very vulnerable position, as this entire crowd and all people here are supporting Lagertha and fought, and some people died for her. But she very successfully painted Lagertha as a superstitious, unintelligible, very rash, warrior-type person that had this superior advantage from her strength, but nothing else. Kind of like the way people treated Rolor when he would say, I am great as well. And it makes a comparison between Ragnar and Rolor. That's what I got there. I did also quite like Asla's final kind of line, which is like, but I did fulfill my destiny of giving Ragnar children. Because that was kind of her entire purpose for the show. Literally just a baby-making machine that they inserted in there to give Ragnar sons. And it was kind of what Ragnar used her for in a relationship from, and how the show used it, so it was pretty cool. So all in all, from this first encounter, I believe Lagertha did a list of things wrong, and it made her very vulnerable for other terrible incidents happening along the future, and it was very bad planning that will probably lead to so much hardship later on in the series. Even though I supported her against Asla, who was kind of really bitchy, but this was just not a very good episode for Lagertha. Even though she won back Kattegat and got her home and stuff, she just did so many things wrong in the taking of it. So next we move on to Liz's funeral. I quite like how they give her this big, glorious funeral where everyone's laughing and having fun and cheering, and they're putting all this stuff and celebrating this whole event around it. Kind of the same way we saw Ragnar react to killing his foes off and giving them beautiful funerals, especially when he overthrew his Earl. And it really gives that reflection between Lagertha and Ragnar, showing that they are really a couple and they are really people who do have things that are in sync. The only real interesting part about this entire funeral sequence will probably be the seer, how he walks up, he looks at Lagertha, kind of turns away with this expression on his face, like he's got somewhere to go, someplace to be, and then you got this worried look from Astrid as well. Now it's possible that could relate to something that we get next episode, I won't spoil it in this review, But if you want to look at my preview breakdown, I talk more about how that Seers could be used in the future and where we see him. So after the funeral, we get to this bit where Uber and Sigurd are released by that slave girl. Personally, I hope we don't get too much more of her. She's kind of a bland, annoying character that was only really used for like this side storyline that I thought was going to be flushing out Ragnar's sons, but they just keep putting her in there over and over again for no real reason. And the ways that they keep plugging her in are really annoying because they don't need to be there, and they're stupid, and there's no real reason for them to be there. But I digress. So Uber and Sigurd arrive and confront Lagertha about the death of their mother. And this is when a legal, proper trial and a way of convincing the people and everyone that it was done legally, fairly, and with honor would have been used very well to, calm down the situation. But the fact that she had the audacity not only to kill her just for taking her own home is like, oh, she had Kattegat and I wanted Kattegat, so I killed her, and that she was a witch. The witch part really triggered Uber. Now, of course, we get this tiny foreshadowing scene where Uber lashes out, tries to fight them. I did quite like how he pushed Sigurd into the arms men so he couldn't help them to fight at all, saving his life if he was going to die. He was going to lash out in retaliation, and he was prepared to die. He just didn't want his brother to die as well for his own lashing outness. But the guards pursue him, Lagertha's okay, and we just see this small foreshadowing for the huge amount of conflict between her and Ragnar's sons from Asla that's going to lead this whole thing. It'll also be very interesting to see how Bjorn reacts to all this, but we'll probably cover that next episode. Then the only other scene we really get in Kattegat is that one of Astrid going towards the two Ragnar sons and warning them not to mess with Lagertha, which will probably only make the tension even worse, to be honest. So all in all for Kattegat, I really liked this episode for Kattegat. It was a really big improvement from last episode and really kind of forward things along a lot better. I didn't like the personal decisions of the character of Lagertha making, but that's not the show's mistakes. She made the decisions because that's her character and that's what she was doing, and it's going to lead to some terrible things, but the show did it pretty well, I must say. Okay, now we finally move on to Ragnar's storyline. Now in this episode, we really got 4 perspectives: Ragnar's, Ivar's, King Ekbert's, and King Ekbert's son. Now straight away, King Ekbert's son really hates Ragnar. He's been a menace on the kingdom, so many terrible things. He's been blamed for tons, his personal issues and stuff like that. Huge amount of terrible things that have happened in his life because of Ragnar, and he really hates him and wants to get revenge and kill him, imprison him. He's extremely happy to have this opportunity, and then it's kind of ruined by Ekbert. Now, King Ekbert always has to maintain this situation where he has this very close personal kind of relationship with Ragnar through Athelstan and all bunch of stuff, and he quite likes Ragnar as a character and as a person, but they are enemies nationally, and he is a king, and he has his king's duties first. They're enemies that are interested, admire, and respect one another, and it's a really interesting relationship, and they really dive deep into this with him getting drunk and talking, and I really liked it in this episode. I'm not entirely sure how King Ekbert's son's going to react to this really strange turn of events that's going to happen from Ekbert's side, and it's going to be really interesting dynamic. He's always been this kind of wild card character that seemed like the loyal follow son, but their differences keep on growing and growing the further the season goes on. The more things that happen with love relationships, the more bad decisions King Ekbert makes, and the relationship with Ragnar. So they could divide their relationship and lead to some conflict there. But all in all, for those two characters, we did see that he managed to get some of his frustration out on that son that wasn't really Ragnar's son, Magnus, and we had some great new development with King Ekbert's character and his mindset at this point in time. And then there's Ragnar. Now, a lot of people were really confused with Ragnar's actions on what he was doing before this episode. There was just so much confusion about why he was doing what he was doing, and then it really spells it out, goes through, and makes us understand Ragnar's larger and bolder strategy. Ragnar's been obsessed with death from the very beginning of the series. He's been testing it, poking it, seeing what it does, exploring, using it to his best potential, and everything. He really wants to understand it and master it. He has finally realized to redeem himself, to return his saga to the fame it once stood, he only has one method left, one tool to help him: his death. He tried using his wealth, he tried using his influence, he tried using his sons, and they wouldn't work. He couldn't get an army, he couldn't go back, the storms could win against him, the gods he doesn't truly understand, believes, or are at least against him. He feels outwitted, outsmarted, with no resource left, apart from his death, which in Viking culture would lead to so much revenge and return that he can use that to destroy and replenish his saga. And so this is what this episode leads to. It's this whole plan of his to get captured, to put himself in a vulnerable position, put himself in the hands of King Ayla, die there so the Vikings will return in the greatest conquest of England ever. Now, personally, I don't see him dying. Now, there's so many hints, there's historical facts, there's all these things that lead to people believing in the show, showing us that he's going to die, this is how he's going to die, and this is when it's going to happen. But I think it's going to be delayed, or not at all, for the series for quite some time. Now, that may be just my fanboy hope, but it's still there. So the question is, what do you guys think is going to happen with Ragnar? Do you think he's going to die next episode, the episode after that, at the end of the season, or do you think he's going to live for at least 1 or 2 more seasons? Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Now, before I end this episode review, I did promise to talk about Ivar. Now, his character didn't get a lot this episode. We just got to see he was alive and he was okay, a few little chit-chat and witty comments, but we know he's going to be heading back on that boat that King Ekbert promised, and he's going to come back with the full fury of the Viking forces. Now, Ivar has a lot more potential in the show. Like, they were bringing out his character quite a lot in the first 3 episodes. This one was kind of just a Ragnar, King Ekbert episode with a little bit of Kattegat in there. Wasn't really meant for Ivar, but I could definitely see him doing amazing stuff in the next episode or the one after that, when he starts landing in England, starts getting his brothers together, starts putting an army in there, Vikings messing up, and really making his history and his legacy, creating his fame. So I can't wait to see all that, how they put his character in there. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out the other videos, my preview breakdowns, other reviews. You guys are awesome. These Viking videos are getting bigger and bigger. I hope you guys really like them. I'll see you guys next time.